This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the U.S. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, May 1st, only on Netflix.
That moment when you realize your skincare is actually working. That's Rodan & Fields, the #1 female dermatologist-founded skincare brand in the U.S. Designed by 2 dermatologists who don't just know women's skin, they know how to formulate for it. Rodan & Fields, love what you see. Tap the banner or visit rodanandfields.com/Spotify to get your exclusive welcome offer.
From the Fifth Quarter Studio in Madison, Wisconsin, you're listening to the Basketball Leadership Podcast. Here are your hosts, Steve Collins and Greg Berg.
All right, welcome to the Basketball Leadership Podcast. Yes, episode 2. Someday we'll
two of many.
We'll see how many digits we can get to, Coach. So today's topic excites me, and this is again more your wheelhouse than mine. I have some ideas about it, but we're going to talk about what is leadership, because it's one of those words that it's kind of like culture. It's kind of like I don't know. There's these lingo words that get thrown out that well, we don't have any leaders, or we don't have any culture. I mean. We both see it all over the world, that it's like, everywhere. And so it's like, it's one of those things that's like, you need it, but you don't necessarily know what it is, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like one of those. Totally. Yeah. And I'm going to let you grab and talk.
I mean, it's like culture. And I think both of us, I don't want to talk about math, but we teach and we taught some high level concepts, right? And I think the art of teaching, and you apply this to coaching, is to simplify the complex. And so how do you simplify culture? Culture is this buzzword. How do you simplify leadership? It's really hard. And so as I've gone around and talked to a lot of schools and written online, I keep going back to the most simplistic definition of this word, which comes from John Maxwell, which is simply influence. And I think if we simplify this, now we can talk about it with kids, we can talk about it with teams, and they get it. So when you say leadership is influence, you basically are telling all kids you have some level of leadership on every team you're on. We all influence the team in a lot of different ways, good or bad. And some of us influence it more or less. And so when we have an attorney in Minnesota that is part of our Principals Association, and he's used the exact same definition with us. And he'll equate it to, you got a bleacher full of kids, and they're, screaming and yelling, and that you've got to go change their behavior. You got to change the narrative of what's going on. How do you use your influence to go over there and just have it might be a look, it might be a short conversation, but influence, and that ability to move someone in a direction that you want is really what leadership is all about. And so I talk about that definition with my kids and just anyone I talk about leadership with all the time. And it's John Maxwell's definition. I think it's great. I also think leaders know the way, they show the way, they go the way. And the last word I'm going to throw in with leadership, and then you dive right in, is a word that you probably don't hear much. It's a word called with-itness. I think leaders have this with-itness, this emotional intelligence, this ability to understand, read the room, make the right look, make the right phrase, whatever it may be, to move people in the direction they need to go. So
like
your thoughts on that, but that's how I define leadership.
I've never heard withedness. I love that. So
my favorite word is a principle.
There's a couple things I think that anybody that's listening to this, first of all, everyone is a leader and a teacher.
Absolutely.
Everyone. Like if you're a parent, you're a teacher and you're a leader. If you're there's just so many different ways that you have to be a leader and a teacher. I 100% agree. And I think sometimes people think, well, I'm not a teacher. Well, everyone's a teacher. Like you teach on a daily basis. It's like, it's not, if you're a manager of Walgreens, you're a leader and a teacher. So I think it's not just for basketball coaches, but I think it's a skill that some people, the withedness, some people are much better at it. I always think that it's like leaders can see big picture. Leaders can, I tell some of my leaders, quote unquote, because they all are leaders, but in different avenues, that the good ones really don't only worry about themselves, but others. Like they can, when they're playing the game. So circling it back to basketball, the leader can, like Wesley Matthews, who plays for the Hawks now. I think he got traded. When he played for Marquette, there's a kid that was a leader because he played for Tom Crean. Crean had 8 billion quick hitters and plays. And I knew Wesley was a leader when I had him, but I could see it there because he knew all the plays and he was able to help his teammates with all the plays that didn't know. So he could move pieces, and so he was not only worried about himself, but he was worried about the other people on the court. And it was like, wow, how do you do that? Wow, that's just an amazing thing. The kids that can kind of transcend that, I think.
Absolutely. And you have to, you have to lead yourself first. You have to be that role model. You have to model the things you need. And then you need to, like you said, you have to lead other people. And you do that and you influence other people in a lot of different ways. But the best leaders, and we're going to talk more about this as we get going, are those that serve others, those that see the big picture, like you said, and those kids and players that we've had that they don't, it's so hard for a high school kid to think beyond themselves. You know what I mean? It's like getting kids to talk on defense.
Yes.
Like when you talk on defense, you're doing it because it's for the team. It's for the good of all. And it's a progression you've got to get to. And leadership is a progression too. So, but I think just defining it as influence for kids is really important, because we can tell them, you influence our team each and every day. You influence our team with your body language. You influence your team, when you're sitting on the bench cheering, supporting your team, or whether you're in the game or not, you're influencing us in a positive or negative manner. And so you are all leaders in different ways. And we need collective leadership on a team. It's a topic we'll talk about. But I think defining it for kids is really, really
I love
important.
that. I love the influencer part. And that's hard because you and I both as educators know that teenagers, and all teenagers are a little bit egocentric. That's part of the stage that they're going through.
It is.
And there's exceptions to that on both ends, obviously. But most of them are like, they're worried about what they're wearing and how they look and how they're perceived. And it's like, to get that extra step and to be that, I love that sense of, if you can influence, I think that there's probably a scale to that too, right? As far as the influence goes.
Everything I think is on a continuum, like culture is on a continuum, commitment is on a continuum, leadership is on a continuum, and it's a progression. I mean, heck, I'm growing as a leader still every day. You are as well. And
I'm almost done. I'm almost done. It's like, I told my all those basketball coaches or teachers are interesting, because I think last year was one of my eval years. And I told the principal that was evaluating, I said, I think I'm close to getting this. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I tell you, pre-COVID, I was feeling like, all right, this good rhythm. I think I got, I think there's a relationship. I think, and he goes, what are you talking about? I go, well, that's how long it took. Because I mean, was I doing okay prior to that? Yes, but I think there's a point where you just kind of like, ooh, I got this. Like now I know how this kind of.
It's all about the process is the prize, right? It's all about this journey, and I think of me and just my writing alone, like that has totally crystallized my thoughts that I've had in my brain going on for forever. And it's allowed me to give clarity of thought, and it's allowed me to grow as a leader and become a better coach, a better leader, a better principal. And so we're all growing, we're all still learning, and leadership is the same way. And I think kids have to know that they all have leadership skills. They're going to continue to grow in this journey. They're going to influence their family, their team, whatever it may be. And it's a process, and we have to teach that process to kids.
And there's different types, and we'll dive into that over the next year. But there's different. I mean, I've had leaders that would say 6 words, and I've had leaders that would not stop talking.
Shut up. Yep.
So there's more than one way of doing it. But anything 100%. Else on that topic, Coach?
No, I mean, we could talk forever. I think short. I just define leadership. This is what it is. This is the baseline of what we're going to use moving forward. Leadership is influence and the ability for kids to influence, or us, other people.
I love that. All right. Till next week.